Hello and welcome. Welcome back actually to our next story about, I think, a very exciting business that we're bringing to you this time. Now, Oliver, welcome.
Thank you.
First of all, when you're trying to find out about a business, I always like to find out about the person.
Sure.
Tell me about you.
So I come from a background of understanding how things go together, how things are made. And really it's based around a process called human-centered design,
Right.
which is where you put, in this instance, a healthcare professional in the center of all of your activity, the center of your world, and you focus on them and you ask questions, you spend time with them in their clinical setting, and you really think, what are these needs, what are the actual needs for these individuals?
Yep.
Then when you come to designing a solution and you understand their psyche, you understand the stresses, the strains, you understand the budget requirements, you understand how they're thinking on a Monday morning, then you can start to think about designing a product for them. And only when you really understand that can you do a good job.
All right. So let's talk about the product now.
Yeah.
Tell me the concept of this. How did you come up with this idea? I mean,
I went to go and see the doctor. I had a dislocated shoulder, and he was telling me his frustrations from one of the other doctors in the practice had knocked a pot of infected urine into a computer keyboard on a Monday morning.
Wonderful.
And that really started the conversation going. And we thought, actually, can we do this better? And I started becoming obsessed and immersed in this urine test. And you start by, you might do some initial online research. You then say, would it be all right to talk to your staff at lunchtime? And after a period of time, I actually looked at both the technical product and then I looked at the size of the market and the commercial opportunity. And I decided actually it was well worth investing further time and funds into developing a product in this area.
I'm delighted to know, to realise I don't know anything about urine tests, but tell what was a traditional urine test?
Well, when I say was, I mean, that's a good question. The most places, most primary care settings being GP practices or hospitals, they still do this particular process. So this is what they still do.
Show me.
So the stick, a urine stick, which has got different pieces of paper, and each of those will change colour depending on whether you have blood or your pH imbalance or various parameters with the urine.
Right.
So you have to read this stick. So you would dip a stick into the urine.
Right.
You would have to scrape it on the edge.
Right.
And then you have to hold it up against this chart, and you have to read the different colours at different times to get the correct result. So you have to read 1 at 30 seconds, 1 at 35 seconds, you have to read 4 at 60 seconds, and then you have to wait 2 minutes to get the remaining ones. And if you don't read them at the right time, you won't get the right result.
So the chances of actually getting the right result is going to be a bit challenging.
Well, that fact alone is proven that 80% of the samples that go to the laboratories for further analysis are false positives.
Yeah.
So they shouldn't actually have been sent.
Right. And that's apart from the damage done to keyboards from time to time as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So having seen that, you then sit there and say, there's got to be a better way of doing this. Well, there has to be a better way of doing this, but I wouldn't know how to go about it.
Yep.
What went through your mind?
So the first thing is I started researching, does digital exist? And yes, absolutely does. You can have a digital analyzer, and a digital analyzer is a large item like this, £800, and it's like a shoebox.
Right.
And you have like a CD drawer used to be. You put the stick in, it goes in and comes out. Mm-hmm. Because of the cost, the clunkiness, and the fact that you've got to clean it after each, they just haven't been widespread, particularly in primary care settings, and a few hospitals would have them. Because of the simplistic nature of a dipstick, they can do it by bedside, and they thought, actually, that we won't go to digital. So I started to understanding about digital and about the application for it. And then I thought, if we've got this sealed inside, can we then come up with a low-cost, affordable analyzer? And can we come up with one that does every facet better? Can it be quicker, cheaper, faster, smarter? And so these were the things that we then started to become obsessed with about improving the technology.
Well, first of all, just finding out how to analyse it. I mean, it's obviously not something you'd know on your day-to-day life.
No.
So do you have to bring in some expertise for that?
Absolutely. So I'm a product designer. So I suppose I've been very good at identifying the right skill sets, whether it's a biochemist, a chemist, what type of software engineer I need, whether it's electrical, hardware, embedded. And really, over my 15 years of my design career before this, I built up a very strong network of people that I knew that I could pull in and had worked with and validated in the past.
And so also knowing the right questions to ask to get out.
I think so. And because we've always been a very small, very lean company, we've got to the point where we've developed a Class AA IVD in a relatively...
What's an IVD?
in vitro diagnostic device, forgive me. So we've developed that in a very short period of time, and medical does take time, and we've gone through all the regulatory hurdles to now sell it in the NHS.
I was going to say, the regulatory hurdles are like the Grand National, I would have thought, several times around. So if you can get through into US, Brexit hasn't affected you at all, you can just go straight into EU.
Correct.
And UK you're already approved for.
Correct, and in use today in primary and secondary care settings.
Right,
so it's being used,
So, it may sound stupid, but how big is this market? I mean, we don't all have urine tests the entire time, but...
Well, we don't, but the stats are there are 100 million urine tests in the UK every year.
Really?
Yeah, 2.8 billion globally.
Right.
So I mean, it's surprising, isn't it? Really, it's the most common medical point of care test.
Right.
Because it's inexpensive, and it's really good at indicating anything from potentially an early stage cancer all the way through to a urinary tract infection.
Right. So it's something that is going to continue to be used. It's not a nice to have. It's a central part of medical care.
Yeah, I don't believe that will ever change.
Right.
It's really measuring a bodily fluid. It's non-invasive. It's easy. It's affordable. So therefore, its presence. I mean, it's been around since 1964 as a chemistry, and I think it will stay. So
you've produced an alternative to it, but by its very nature, is that not going to be more expensive than what looked pretty basic as a piece of plastic and a colour chart?
Yeah, good question. So you always need a plastic receptacle to put the urine. So that's sort of like for like. The great thing is that with our product, there are many efficiencies that are gained all the way through, whether it's a time saving or whether it's a decanting. So the current system, they have to decant into various containers as it goes from the patient to the clinician to the lab.
Right.
And that involves time, involves writing, transcription errors, spilling urine, etc. So that's a lot of wastage that's gone there. Our product is within a couple of pennies of cost neutral with the current. However, the analyzer at £295 in the UK plus VAT. And at that price, we're hugely undercutting the £800. And therefore, our aim as a business is to make digital affordable, make best practice affordable. And therefore, that is not the barrier to actually adopting our system. And revenues are derived from the consumable rather than
and you reduce the time of the testing as well.
So the testing will take the same period of time, but because our system is integrated with patients' notes, it's one container that goes through. It's a very, very efficient pathway for those healthcare professionals to do. And instead of holding the stick and reading this and asking you, how is your shoulder? and my back's at you because I'm at the sink because I've got urine open. The test can be being performed, integrated into the results on the computer, and we can have a meaningful conversation.
Before we have a look at the product itself, tell me about the team, because obviously you've got a group around you.
Yeah, sure.
Who are they?
So we're a small team. We're based in Cornwall. Our team consists of a gentleman called Tim Gifford, who was the CEO of a small PLC, but he worked for the vast majority of his career for WL Gore, which is known for Gore-Tex. But he worked in the medical and technical fabrics division. My chairman is called Nick Sprague, and Nick has got a very successful background on building businesses and selling them to perhaps larger PLCs. But really his expertise is in people and in growth, and really all those problems that early stage businesses he's very good at.
That's exciting. You're in Cornwall, not exactly seen to be the throbbing centre of medical science. Why there?
Well, I think the reality is we were given, we were very successful in a grant application. We fitted a number of applications for innovative technologies, high value, patented, automated, and we were supported by what was then EU funding to move to Cornwall and really establish the business there. Once, as you know, you start a business there and you employ staff and all your infrastructure, you stay. So it worked from their perspective, but we were the only company that actually passed their criteria to go there. So it was £1 million, which is a fantastic sum of money, but we were obviously the fortunate one to be chosen as well.
Okay, so it's very clever, but presumably you've got a lot of patents on this. What's to stop anybody else just going out and doing exactly the same? So
we've got 9 granted patents in various territories around the key medical territories around the world.
And you can defend those?
Correct, we can defend those. They're very robust patents that have been enforced a number of years now, and our technology is quite unique in the fact that the cap goes on the tube. The tube can go into the analyzer in any orientation, and the top goes on. That can go on any orientation. So if you think about the variabilities there, and we've designed it so that key word you said earlier, being intuitive, I was talking to you, not thinking about that, and that's the great thing. We can carry the conversation on, and therefore, We've designed the device so it's circular, it's easy to use, and the results appear as and when is convenient with me.
Yeah, I don't need a great skill to be able to operate
You don't.
that.
I mean, that's what's required.
Yeah, oh good, I got an alternative career doing that if nothing else. Now, you're looking to raise 2 million on this, and potentially a little bit more, up to say 2.4
million. Yeah, up to 2.4.
million.
Yeah, sure.
And that's all going to be in equity?
Yes, that's correct. Yes.
And so how does this going to be operate in terms of dilution? So in terms of the investors coming in, they're going to be taking a percentage of the business?
Yeah, sure. So there was obviously a dilution to the existing investors. The fund that we, on the last raise, we've obviously the value of the business has increased. So we went from our CE mark, we've done our clinical trials and investor. So really, yes, so of course there's normal dilution and there's normal shares coming in at this round.
Right, okay. And so as far as you're concerned, then you're still going to have the original team will still be there.
Yep.
They're still going to have the majority of shareholding in there?
Yeah, so I'm the largest shareholder in the business,
right.
And the rest of the team have got a small amount of shares really.
Right.
But I'm the key.
But
we also have a pool for management incentive scheme as well to ensure those individuals are.
So that's locked in for the ride.
It is correct. Yeah.
Okay. Right. Now, as an investor, presumably, what do you want from your investors? You want different types of investors, but presumably people are going to stay with you for the trip. That's what, 4 or 5 years, something like that?
Yeah, I don't believe it will be as long as that.
Right.
I think if we're talking at the early stage, our initial round, yes. I mean, that's where we've been so far. Medical investment is always to be understood. It always takes longer. It's always harder. Your research is always more complicated. But we've done that bit. We've got our IP. We're established business, and we're now at the point where we now need investment to scale up. So it would be a shorter period of time.
So to be clear then, we'll raise this money. My investment money is going to go to you, and you're going to use this all on upscaling the business, having the capacity to fulfill demand. 3
critical areas. Manufacturing capacity,
yep.
Increasing the number of sales staff, direct sales and marketing staff,
yep.
Working with distributors overseas and that management.
Yep.
And then the third thing is an element of working capital.
Okay.
Those are the 3 items.
Where are the threats to your business? What keeps you awake?
What keeps me awake? I think it should never, ever be underestimated the conservative nature of the medical industry.
Yep.
I mean, if you think about it, inherently they're not in the risk business.
No.
The doctors get out of bed to do their best for patients.
Mm-hmm.
We believe, obviously, we've developed a technology that can actually make their life easier and enable it because we're giving them digital results. We're meaning it's one stress they don't have to think about.
Yep.
But they are conservative individuals. The UK is a tough market, but we're a respected market. But we see the overseas, the Scandinavian markets, the German markets as being our more attractive ones. And that's really where we're focusing on. So that's why the sales can never be compared to a consumer good. It is slower and is harder, but we understand it. And that's why I've got a team that have had great success in the medical industry as well. So we've got a business here which is looking to raise 2 to 2.4 million. A very good looking product. I hope you found that fascinating. If you want to find out more information, do contact us regionally, and we're delighted to be able to give you some more data, information, and ask any questions. So look forward to hearing from you. In the meantime, Oliver, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you. I thought that was fascinating.
Thanks for your time.
Well done.